Madeline Harper slammed the mailbox open, a crisp letter tumbling onto the wet sidewalk, the envelope bold with the courthouse seal, her hand hovering over the embossed words "Final Divorce Decree." The morning sun slicing through the urban fog of Chicago streets, the roar of a distant train vibrating through the pavement. She stepped back, boots clicking against concrete as a reflection caught her eye in the glass of the neighboring boutique. Gregory Lawson's black SUV idling a block away, the tinted windows hiding the familiar smirk she knew all too well. She unfolded the decree with careful fingers, each fold revealing her name printed in bold letters beside his. The echo of the mail slot snapping shut behind her made her start slightly. A flashback flickered. Wedding photos pinned to the fridge, the silk dress she had ironed herself, his voice promising forever, and then a flicker of the same voice now laughing on a showroom video in her mind. She shook it off and walked toward the curb, traffic humming around her. The first text arrived, a picture of Gregory stepping out of a Rolls-Royce with a blonde leaning against the door, the caption simple, teasing, "Morning ride?" The credit card in her name resting on the passenger seat like a taunt. She held the phone tighter, knuckles whitening, the metallic scent of rain on asphalt mixing with the faint smell of her own coffee from the thermos she carried. Pedestrians passing glanced briefly, some nodding, others oblivious. She pressed her thumb against the screen to enlarge the photo, a subtle movement in her chest, a decision forming silently, the reflection in the SUV's side mirror showing her poised stance, a coat collar turned up, scarf fluttering in the breeze. She walked past a street musician tuning a violin, the high note piercing the morning calm. She considered her next step. Would she confront? Would she retreat? The city pulsing around her, the mail in her bag heavy. She glanced down an alley where the light hit the brick walls just right. Another flashback. Him handing her a coffee, laughing at a joke only she understood. The corner of the cafe mirror reflecting her youthful smile. Then back to the present, the blonde stepping out, heels clicking on marble steps, Gregory leaning casually against the car, his posture arrogant. She stopped, inhaled sharply, and moved closer to the curb to get a better look, each movement deliberate, subtle shift of weight, a hand adjusting the strap of her bag as if to claim ground. Her lips parted slightly as she murmured, "Really, Greg?" Under her breath, no one around hearing but herself, the wind tugging strands of hair into her face. She brushed them back, eyes scanning every gesture, the SUV door opening, a flash of gold jewelry catching sunlight, the psychological tension mounting, the pedestrians' chatter fading into background noise, the city noise becoming a drumbeat marking her presence, a taxi honking behind her, and she stepped into the frame of the morning light fully aware, ready to engage in a silent battle, every inch forward measured, heels tapping, coat brushing against her knees, the envelope pressing against her hip like armor. She exhaled, a small shift of power in her stance, the credit card still gleaming in the photo, the gap between what was taken and what she would take narrowing with every step. And as Gregory glanced up toward her reflection in the shop window, their eyes locked, a micro-gesture, a subtle arch of his brow, a faint curve of her mouth, hinting at the collision of intentions yet to come. She did not speak, but her hand adjusted the thermos strap, a silent claim to the morning, and the narrative of control was already beginning to tilt. Every flash of sunlight on polished chrome, every metallic echo of rain on the street marking the battlefield of composure, strategy, and quiet power as she set the scene for what would unfold next. The first part of her story etched in the rhythm of movement, reflection, and restrained confrontation. "Not him again," Madeline Harper whispered under her breath as she stepped into the narrow corridor of the boutique, the bell above the door jingling sharply, each note vibrating like an alarm through the quiet space, her fingers brushing the polished oak counter, fingertips grazing the edge of a leather-bound planner lying open with Gregory Lawson's name scribbled across the latest appointments. She crouched to retrieve a small parcel from the bottom shelf, a rolled receipt slipping from her grasp onto the floor, the crisp paper snapping under her heel. She glanced up and caught the reflection of a black sedan idling outside through the glass, a faint shadow moving in the driver's seat. She flicked the receipt into her pocket, the stapled corners pressing against her palm. She placed a hand on the counter, leaning slightly, hearing a soft ping. From her phone, a text from an unknown number showing an image of the same blonde from the Rolls-Royce at a charity gala earlier that evening, captioned simply, "Guess who is having fun?" The credit card in her name still glinting on the glass table beside a sparkling centerpiece. Madeline adjusted the strap of her bag, a subtle shift of weight to steady herself, eyes narrowing as she calculated possibilities, a flashback to the morning when Gregory had dropped the letter at the doorstep, The envelope bending under the force of his hand, her mother's warning echoing. Do not let them see you falter. She straightened, heels clicking against marble tiles, the air scent of polished wood and lavender from a small vase mixing, the ping of another text alerting her, a receipt image showing the same luxury car being refueled, fuel pump handle glinting in the sun. She interpreted it as a sign of carelessness, a confirmation that the credit card had been used without her knowledge, and she decided to call the bank, thumb hovering over the keypad, hesitation only for a heartbeat before she pressed the first digit, power shifting inward, a sense of control rising as she spoke firmly to the teller, details confirming her assumption, her name tied to the charges, the line of questioning forcing her to consider her next move. She hung up and adjusted her coat collar, the bell above jingling again as a delivery man entered, breaking the tense silence. The sound of boxes scraping the floor startled her. She stepped aside, almost bumping into a mirror, catching the reflection of her posture, shoulders squared, eyes scanning the corridor, the alley outside casting a shadow across the wooden floor. A sudden gust of wind fluttered the curtains, bringing a chill. She wrapped her scarf tighter, noting the subtle shift in light and shadow. A text alert again, this time a map showing the route Gregory would take to return to the dealership, the image showing a stop at a private club, a decision forming in her mind. She would intercept him, but she hesitated, considering the blonde's position, the moment stretching as her phone buzzed yet again. She realized another detail, the credit card image showing a signature nearly matching her own, reinforcing her assumption that he had acted recklessly, the stress mounting, a delivery truck honking outside, shaking the glass panes. Madeline pivoted, scanning for potential witnesses, each reflection and shadow a calculated threat. The phone slipped slightly in her grip. She caught it quickly, steadying herself. Another flashback, Gregory laughing at a gala months before, the clink of champagne glasses, the echo of applause filling the room, juxtaposed with this morning's betrayal, her mind racing to piece together the narrative. She set the parcel on the counter, adjusting the lighting to see better, eyes flicking to the door every few seconds, each passing minute amplifying the tension. The alley suddenly filled with a cyclist who almost collided with a delivery van, forcing her to step back abruptly, a sudden ping of her phone showing a calendar reminder. The gala tomorrow, a potential leverage point. She pressed the reminder into her palm, the subtle crinkle of paper reinforcing her resolve, her gaze moving to the glass door where condensation blurred the reflection of Gregory's SUV pulling away, and she made a silent decision, a shift in power within her posture, every step, breath, and glance calculated, preparing for the confrontation to come, while the reflection of the city skyline through the boutique window hinted at the gathering storm outside, leaving her poised at the edge of action. The scene unresolved, a question hanging over the next move she would take. I have to move now, Madeline Harper muttered as she grabbed the envelope from the counter, the embossed courthouse seal pressing into her palm, the boutique door swinging open with a sharp jingle, a gust of wind scattering flyers across the marble floor, her heels clicking faster as she exited. The black sedan Gregory Lawson had been sitting in now gone, leaving only tire marks on the wet street. She pulled her coat tighter, the faint scent of rain mixing with spilled coffee from a nearby cart. She opened her phone, the GPS tracking app highlighting his next location, a private club 2 blocks away. She tapped the route. Impatiently, each swipe echoing through the quiet alleyway. A flashback hit, a dinner months ago where he had whispered, "Trust me, Madeline, everything is under control." His grin reflected in the silverware. She shivered and adjusted her grip on the parcel, hearing a honk as a taxi swerved past, almost clipping her foot. She stepped back, the package brushing against the boutique window, the reflection showing her tense posture. She forced herself to breathe and keep moving. A notification popped up, a text from an unknown number showing a close-up of the credit card, the embossed letters gleaming under fluorescent light. She assumed he was flaunting the charges, her belief in his recklessness strengthening. She pressed forward, turning a corner into a quieter street, footsteps echoing behind her. A cyclist appeared suddenly, swerving into a stack of cardboard boxes, scattering them across the asphalt. She jumped back, heart racing, the reflective tape on the boxes catching the morning sun. She cursed under her breath and adjusted her scarf. A text alert appeared showing a rearview camera image of Gregory approaching in another black SUV. The city noises amplified, construction jackhammers vibrating through the pavement. She ducked into a narrow alley, knocking against a metal gate, the clang reverberating loudly. Making her flinch, she crouched, eyes scanning the reflection of sunlight on puddles, her thumb hovering over the phone to send a location update to Harrison Drake, the shadow of a streetlight stretching long and sharp. She caught movement. A delivery man crossing the alley, boxes piled high, nearly obscuring his face. She pressed against the brick wall, almost losing balance on the wet cobblestone. A memory flashed of him in the dealership showroom, the Rolls-Royce gleaming, the blonde laughing, her own reflection on the car window. She inhaled sharply, pulling the phone close. She dialed. Harrison whispered, "I need you to be ready." The line crackling, he confirmed softly. She pocketed the phone, crouched behind a dumpster, the sharp scent of garbage mingling with rain on asphalt, and as Gregory's SUV turned the corner, she pushed off, stepping into view. Too early, a honk startled a nearby pedestrian. The SUV swerved slightly, her heart jumping. She froze momentarily, power shifting between her awareness and his unknowing confidence. A gust of wind scattered a flyer across the hood, catching his attention. He braked slightly, eyebrows furrowed. She straightened, adjusting her coat, realizing in that moment that her assumption of total control might be premature. A sudden blare from a motorcycle pulling up beside the SUV caused a jolt. She almost dropped the parcel, regaining her balance, and as Gregory's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror, a subtle flicker of unease crossed his expression, her mind racing. She weighed the next move, the tension thick, the alleyway narrowing, every reflection, shadow, and movement a potential revelation, the possibility that he had anticipated her tracking yet unknown, leaving her on the edge of action, ready to pivot, the situation teetering between confrontation and retreat, the next decision already demanding itself as she stepped forward, heels clicking sharply against cobblestones, her eyes locked on the approaching vehicle, the air thick with the scent of rain and asphalt, and she knew the next moment would force her hand in a choice that could shift everything. "Stop right there," Madeline Harper whispered as she ducked behind the corner of the private club, her palm pressed against the cold brick wall, phone in hand, the screen glowing with the map showing Gregory Lawson's route. A sudden honk from a black SUV startled her, tires squealing slightly on wet asphalt. She pressed herself lower, the parcel brushing against her hip, and the reflection of a streetlight revealed another vehicle parked behind her, headlights slicing the darkness. She realized Harrison Drake had arrived ahead of schedule, the microsecond of doubt hitting her. Had he seen her tracking Gregory, or was this part of a plan? She stepped out slightly to signal him, the flicker of a text alert revealing a calendar reminder for tomorrow's gala. Her mind racing with timing and leverage, she pivoted to glance at the SUV door as it opened and a hand, not Gregory's, adjusted the side mirror, her chest tightening. She assumed it was an unexpected complication, a new ally or enemy unknown. The alley suddenly alive with the echo of high heels and the scrape of metal against wet cobblestone. A flash of the Rolls-Royce emblem reflected in the nearby window. She stepped forward, adjusting her scarf, eyes scanning every shadow, the faint smell of gasoline from the SUV mixing with rain and asphalt. A notification pinged with another photo, showing the blonde with Gregory holding the credit card. Between them, she assumed he had deliberately flaunted it, the conviction driving her next move. She dialed. Harrison whispered, "Be ready at the rear." The line crackling, footsteps approaching, a trash can top clanging as someone shifted weight. She froze, power shifting in the moment, the reflection of streetlight bouncing off the wet pavement revealing Gregory's silhouette stepping from the club with a briefcase. His brow furrowed at the lights. She advanced, heels clicking on the pavement, parcel under arm, a gust of wind flipping a loose flyer onto the SUV windshield, momentarily obscuring his view. She seized the instant, stepping closer, Harrison moving silently to intercept, a flashback of a dinner months prior. Gregory tapping the credit card on the table with a smirk, came to her mind, reinforcing her belief that he was careless. Yet her thumb hovered over the screen showing a second notification, a GPS snapshot placing the SUV off the planned route, the assumption of control wobbling slightly. She exhaled sharply, adjusted the parcel, and stepped into the faint light. A sudden car horn from a delivery truck echoed down the street, making her start. She pivoted, bumping the parcel against her side, nearly dropping it. Harrison's hand brushing against her elbow stabilized her. Their eyes met briefly, confirming alignment. Gregory glanced toward the noise, the blonde stepping back slightly, a subtle crack in his composure she had not expected, the power subtly shifting in her favor. She pressed forward, adjusting her coat collar, checking every angle, the lights reflecting off puddles like tiny spotlights. A car door slammed further down the street, startling a nearby pedestrian, distraction amplifying her tension. She noted the curb ahead, calculating the next move, her mind racing, heart pacing. A new text from the unknown number, timestamp showing the moment of the last gallery appearance. Another reminder of the gala's timing. She realized the complexity increasing, a decision forced. Advance or wait, each second heightening stakes. The reflection of the SUV door handle catching sunlight like a trigger. She stepped forward, grip tightening on the parcel. The wet cobblestone slippery under heels, a gust of wind rattling a loose metal sign above the alley. She ducked instinctively, eyes locked on Gregory's movement. The scene teetering between action and chaos, every reflection, light and sound sharpening her focus, the moment unresolved, a question hanging in the air as the next move demanded execution, leaving her poised on the edge of confrontation. "There he is again," Madeline Harper muttered as she pressed herself against the shadowed brick of the alley, the reflection of the SUV headlights slicing across puddles on the cobblestone, her fingers brushing the strap of the parcel tighter, a gust of wind rattling a loose metal sign above the gate. She stepped forward cautiously, heels tapping lightly, a text ping showing a GPS snapshot of Gregory Lawson turning into a side street she had not expected, the narrow lane illuminated by a flickering streetlight revealing the Rolls-Royce glinting in the wet sheen. She crouched behind a dumpster, adjusting the parcel, noticing a faint trail of receipts scattered on the asphalt leading toward a loading dock, her mind assuming he was careless, a flash of the credit card image confirming her belief. She advanced, checking reflections in puddles and windows, footsteps echoing from a distant doorway making her freeze. She crouched lower. The sound of a metal gate swinging caught her attention. She pivoted to see a delivery van reversing slowly toward the corner, nearly clipping her. She caught herself with a hand against the van, breath catching. A subtle shift in balance, she ducked further, sliding the parcel under her arm. A faint sound of a mobile notification brought her gaze back to the phone showing a photo of Harrison Drake entering the alley from the opposite end. She assumed he was already coordinating, the detail reinforcing her plan. She pushed off the dumpster, moving toward the first stack of boxes near the dock, her hand brushing against a discarded coffee cup, the smell sharp, the lids rattling slightly in the wind. A sudden glare of headlights reflected off a window, momentarily blinding her. She stumbled, adjusting her scarf, the map app showing Gregory taking another unexpected turn. She interpreted it as recklessness, thumb hovering over the screen. Deciding quickly to intercept, she ran forward, knocking over a small stack of crates, the clatter echoing loudly, drawing attention. A window above creaked open, a shadow moving. She froze, scanning every angle, the parcel pressing against her hip. A horn blared from a delivery truck at the far end, and she pivoted sharply, slipping slightly on wet pavement, nearly dropping the parcel. The reflection in the puddle showing Gregory pausing at the corner, looking around, the blonde stepping closer to the car, a hand on the door handle. Madeline assumed he was unaware of her presence. She made a snap decision, stepping into the open slightly, phone in hand to signal Harrison, her voice barely a whisper. "Now." The click of heels against cobblestone shifted the power briefly, Gregory's head snapping toward the sound. Eyes narrowing, she ducked back, parcel clutched tight, her assumption of advantage challenged as the SUV headlights swung toward the side street, revealing an unexpected pedestrian stepping out, a bicycle scraping against the van, causing both Gregory and the blonde to turn. The micro-shift of attention giving her a sliver of opportunity. She adjusted her stance, eyes locking on the rearview mirror reflecting movement behind him. A sudden ping from her phone showing a message from an unknown number with an address she had not anticipated. Her belief in the original plan wavering slightly, and as she weighed whether to continue forward or retreat, the sound of a door slamming echoed through the alley, startling a stray cat into the street, which skittered across the headlights, creating a brief but blinding reflection, leaving her momentarily frozen, chest rising rapidly, the alley a maze of reflections, shadows, and wet cobblestone. A new calculation forming, every step forward risky, every glance could reveal her, and she knew the next move would either secure a foothold or throw everything into further chaos. Tension thick in the air as the first glimpse of uncertainty forced her to act. "We are out of time," Madeline Harper muttered, stepping onto the slick pavement as the SUV turned the corner abruptly, headlights catching puddles and scattering reflections across the alley, her fingers gripping the parcel tighter. The map on her phone blinking with Gregory Lawson's erratic route. She darted forward, heels slipping on wet cobblestone, a loose manhole cover rattling underfoot, nearly tipping her. She caught herself against a fire escape ladder, the metallic clang echoing. Sharply, she glanced up to see Harrison Drake stepping cautiously from the shadows, a faint nod confirming alignment. A sudden honk from a delivery truck startled a nearby pedestrian, causing a ripple of movement in the alley. She pivoted, noticing a stack of crates had shifted into the path she intended. The parcel brushing against her hip, she swerved, catching the edge of a crate, sending a pile of cardboard tumbling into the wet street. A metallic echo reverberating, Gregory's SUV braking slightly, the blonde stepping back, eyes narrowing. She assumed her movement had gone unnoticed, but a flash of a reflection in the window suggested otherwise. Her thumb hovered over the phone, ready to signal Harrison. A text alert popped up with a time-stamped photo of the credit card left carelessly in the SUV. She assumed he had made a critical mistake, pressed forward. The parcel clutched to her chest. A sudden squeal of tires as the SUV swerved toward the corner forced her to leap aside, scraping her coat against the wet brick, leaving a shallow tear, the wind scattering flyers across the asphalt. She grabbed the parcel and ran toward the next alley, reflections of neon signs flashing across puddles, footsteps echoing behind her, a horn blaring from the cross street making her flinch. She ducked, noticing a discarded coffee cup tipped near her foot, its lid rolling into the gutter. She stepped over it carefully, eyes scanning every shadow. A new ping from her phone revealed an unexpected notification, a GPS location showing another route she had not anticipated. Her assumption of control beginning to waver, she adjusted her grip, parcel pressed tightly against her, the wind tugging at her scarf. A door slammed in the distance, startling a stray cat. Into the street, the sudden movement catching Gregory's attention, his brow furrowing. She exhaled sharply, stepping into the faint glow of a street lamp, her coat brushing against wet metal. She scanned the area, a delivery van idling nearby, wheels squeaking slightly, the rising steam from its exhaust fogging her vision briefly. She pivoted, noticing Harrison waving from a side doorway. She moved toward him, but a sudden screech of brakes and the SUV reversing slightly forced her to skid on the cobblestones, parcel slipping. She barely caught it, heart pounding, power shifting unpredictably. She whispered, "Hold it together," ducking behind a dumpster as headlights swept past, reflections dancing off puddles. A flash of the credit card again caught her eye, the embossed letters glinting, reinforcing her assumption that she could intercept. Yet the erratic route suggested she had misjudged the timing. She glanced to Harrison, eyes meeting in a silent calculation, deciding to pivot, stepping toward the cross alley, only to see Gregory already turning the corner faster than expected, the alley narrowing, leaving barely enough space to maneuver. A horn blared as a cyclist appeared from a side street, forcing both to freeze. The parcel pressed to her chest, her boots slipping slightly, a new surge of adrenaline sharpening her focus. The next step already demanding itself, tension mounting, reflections, sounds, and movement converging into a critical moment. A sharp text alert on her phone revealing a new location, a door creaking above, shadows stretching long, and she realized that every decision here would have immediate, irreversible consequences as the scene teetered on the edge of control. "Wait," Madeline Harper whispered sharply, pressing her back against the alley wall as headlights glinted off the wet pavement. The parcel clutched tightly under her arm, a distant car horn blaring as Gregory Lawson's SUV slowed near the intersection. She leaned forward to peek around the corner, noticing for the first time a briefcase sitting on the curb next to the Rolls-Royce, its metallic clasp reflecting neon from a nearby sign. She crouched lower, her fingers brushing the parcel, adjusting her scarf against the chill. A text ping showing Harrison Drake's location 2 blocks away. She assumed he had arrived first and was securing the exit. A flash of movement in the SUV's side mirror caught her eye, the blonde stepping closer to retrieve the briefcase. She exhaled sharply, interpreting the action as carelessness on their part. She darted forward, heels clacking on wet cobblestone, the parcel bumping against her hip. She tripped over a small puddle, splashing water across the reflective surface, the briefcase swinging in the blonde's hand, the glint of a corner revealing a logo she did not recognize, a detail shifting her assumption that the contents might not be what she thought. She adjusted her stride, glancing quickly at the rearview mirror. Gregory's brow furrowed as he noticed her movement. She whispered under her breath, "Do not let him see me falter," stepping closer, the wind carrying the scent of gasoline and rain. A sudden gust flipping a flyer into the SUV's windshield, momentarily blinding the driver. She seized the moment, moving toward the briefcase, a metal grate beneath her foot shifting slightly, sending a sharp clatter echoing. Through the alley, Gregory's head snapping toward the noise, eyes narrowing, she ducked quickly, parcel pressed against her chest, a reflection from a nearby window catching her off guard, revealing another figure she had not anticipated. The presence heightening tension, she pressed forward, stepping over a tipped trash can, the metallic clang sending a shiver down her spine, the briefcase just within reach, her fingers brushing it, and a flash of light from her phone illuminated a barcode and a series of initials that did not match Gregory's, challenging her prior belief about the contents. She hesitated for a heartbeat, then grabbed it decisively, the weight in her hand forcing a slight stumble, sending a stack of cardboard rattling down the alley, the noise catching Gregory's attention, the blonde stepping back in surprise, a horn blaring from a passing truck reverberating through the walls. She adjusted her grip on the parcel and briefcase, feeling the ground slick under her boots, and as she pivoted to retreat, a loose metal pipe clanging against the brick wall startled her, power shifting as the SUV started moving again. Gregory leaning forward with a narrowed gaze, she ducked behind a dumpster, catching a glimpse of Harrison emerging from the shadows with a subtle nod, the reflection of neon signs and puddles flashing intermittently. She realized the briefcase might hold a critical leverage point, her prior assumptions now fractured but unresolved. A gust of wind whipping a loose poster into her face, obscuring vision. She brushed it away, scanning the alley, realizing that every step forward now carried greater risk. A horn blaring again as a car rounded the corner, the air thick with tension. She crouched lower, parcel and briefcase pressed to her chest, reflections, shadows, and the glinting contents merging into a moment teetering on control. The final glimpse of Gregory's eyes meeting hers through the side mirror hinting at an unknown variable, leaving her poised at the edge of the next move with the alley charged and every decision cascading into uncertainty. Now or never, Madeline Harper whispered, stepping out from behind the dumpster as headlights flickered across the wet cobblestones, the parcel and briefcase pressed tightly under her arm, rain slicking her boots, the alley narrowing as Gregory Lawson's SUV halted with a low hum. The blonde glancing back nervously, Madeline pivoted, catching a subtle gesture from Harrison Drake, who remained in shadow, eyes steady, phone in hand showing a timer counting down to the gala. She exhaled, adjusting her scarf, noticing a flash of polished metal on the briefcase revealing a lock she had not seen before. She assumed it held sensitive documents, her thumb brushing the clasp, a faint text notification from Harrison showing his proximity 1 block away. She interpreted his calm as reassurance, power shifting into her hands. She stepped forward, heels clacking sharply on cobblestones, the wind whipping a flyer into Gregory's SUV windshield, forcing the blonde to step aside. Madeline lunged toward the briefcase, gripping both it and the parcel, the sound of rain dripping from fire escapes hitting metal grates punctuating the tension. Gregory leaning forward, eyes narrowing, mouth opening as if to call out. She ducked, spinning toward a narrow side entrance, her coat brushing wet brick, the briefcase swinging, a small emblem catching the neon from a sign above, a logo she did not recognize. The perception of its value surging, she glanced up, seeing Harrison quietly position himself near the exit. His stance calm yet commanding, the faint reflection of his hand brushing against the wall signaling silent support. Madeline adjusted the parcel strap, deciding to confront the situation directly, stepping into the faint glow of a street lamp, headlights casting long shadows, the blonde attempting to retrieve the briefcase, Madeline pivoting and blocking with her body, the scrape of leather against asphalt, a flash of the card embossed letters catching the neon, confirming her prior assumption yet hinting at complexity she did not fully understand. Gregory exhaling sharply, the SUV idling closer, tires wet and gleaming, Madeline's eyes flicking to a side alley, every reflection, puddle and shadow sharpening her awareness. A sudden clang from a falling metal pipe hitting the curb startled both men, shifting their attention. She seized the moment, adjusting her grip on parcel and briefcase, sliding a step forward, heels clicking, the rain dripping from the awnings above. She whispered, "Step aside." Her voice steady, subtext slicing through the tension. Gregory's gaze faltering slightly, a subtle power shift, the blonde stepping back, Madeline pressing her advantage, pivoting toward the alley exit, parcel and briefcase in hand, wind tugging at her hair and coat. A new text ping from Harrison revealing a second location for rendezvous. The alley twisting in perspective, puddles reflecting neon signs, Her boots slipping slightly on wet cobblestone, she steadied herself, realizing the situation's stakes were higher than she anticipated. Another SUV rounding the corner, headlights blinding, forcing her to duck behind a stack of crates, breath catching as her fingers brushed the briefcase. A flash of light revealing an official seal she had not noticed, a small gasp from the blonde, power shifting visibly in Madeline's favor. She exhaled, pivoting once more. The wind scattering flyers and debris, reflections of neon glinting off metal surfaces, every step measured, a horn blaring as a delivery truck passed, and just as she prepared to move forward toward Harrison's position, the corner of the alley revealed an unexpected figure emerging, silhouetted against the streetlight, the briefcase swinging in her grip, the parcel tight under her arm, and she froze, heart racing. The scene suspended at the edge of confrontation as the alley filled with shadows, reflections, and the unknown presence, leaving the next move hanging in the balance. "This ends now," Madeline Harper breathed, stepping into the alley illuminated by a single flickering streetlight, parcel and briefcase held tightly, puddles reflecting neon signs. Gregory Lawson's SUV halted inches away, the blonde frozen with a hand on the door. Madeline adjusted her coat, heels clicking sharply on wet cobblestone, the metallic clasp of the briefcase catching the light. She whispered, "Step back." Voice firm, eyes locked on Gregory, his lips pressed in a thin line, hands gripping the steering wheel, the faint scent of gasoline and rain heavy in the air. Harrison Drake emerging silently from the shadows, phone in hand, a subtle nod signaling quiet authority. Power shifting as Madeline stepped forward, parcel bumping against her hip. She noticed a second reflection in a puddle showing a city security camera above, glinting metal and lens capturing the moment. She realized the briefcase contained contracts and documents she could leverage, and adjusted her stride to block the blonde, who hesitated, grip loosening slightly, Gregory exhaling sharply, a subtle crease forming on his brow. She pivoted, tossing the briefcase lightly to her other hand, feeling its weight, every movement deliberate, the rain dripping from awnings, a car horn blaring far down the street, shadows dancing across walls, a text ping from Harrison showing an incoming backup vehicle. She assumed it was part of a coordinated plan, chest tight, eyes scanning reflections in wet glass. The blonde stepping back completely, parcel pressed firmly. Madeline whispered again, "You will not take this." Voice cutting through the tension. Gregory leaned back slightly, a subtle shift in power, eyes softening as Harrison's hand brushed the edge of the alley, a gesture that silently affirmed Madeline's authority and dignity without intervening. She exhaled and stepped toward the exit, puddles reflecting neon in elongated streaks, every step deliberate, boots splashing slightly, the parcel and briefcase safe. Gregory watching silently, the alley quiet except for rain dripping and distant city sounds, a wind gust flipping a torn flyer against a nearby wall, eyes catching a logo on the briefcase revealing it belonged to a major philanthropic fund. Her assumption about the contents confirming leverage yet creating new stakes. She pivoted, locking eyes with Gregory one last time, a faint smile crossing her lips, every step toward Harrison's position asserting control. Neon light reflecting off wet cobblestones. She felt the air shift. An unexpected ping from her phone showing a new email from the fund with a subject line hinting at a surprising revision of the contracts inside the briefcase, her mind racing as the final piece of information reframed everything she had seen. The blonde watching helplessly, Gregory's jaw tightening. Madeline pressed forward, parcel and briefcase in hand, stepping onto the street, rain glistening on her coat, reflections dancing, footsteps echoing in sync, a distant siren approaching, and as she looked back once, city lights reflecting in puddles like scattered diamonds, she realized the story was not over. Yet she had claimed her moment. Every choice and action converging into a display of composure, power and triumph, leaving the scene charged, cinematic and unresolved, poised for what the city would reveal next.